Hello, welcome to episode 1 of 2 of the behind the scenes for the Minecraft map Valley of the Kings. This episode is going to be about the history of the map and design changes throughout that history, and the second one is going to cover the mechanics of the map. So, first we need to start at the beginning. This map was built by a build team called the Broken Buttons. That's their logo you can see on screen. And they were a build team under Blame the Controller, the former Mindcracker, and they made a bunch of maps, but they aren't remembered very much nowadays. So some of the things they made were Blackbeard for Play Mindcrack, a map called Kingdom of the Skies 2, the 2013 Minecon map, which, if I recall correctly, was included on flash drives for everyone who went to Minecon that year. And also they were working on a really big, impressive map called Kingdom of the Skies 3, which who knows if that'll ever see the light of day, but that's a complete story. Ever since Blame the Controller left the team, though, the website went down, the TeamSpeak went down. I think the Redstone server is still up. There's no application process anymore. For all intents and purposes, the team might as well be, unfortunately. Now, the logo, you might recognize that if you watched the Learning to Make Maps panel or if you were watching any sort of Minecon vlogs. I was actually wearing a t-shirt with that logo at Minecon. So I got that printed. The logo, both of these logos were designed by Croco, a member of the build team. And it looks pretty good, I have to say. Anyway, that's the sort of the history of the build team. But for this map particularly, it was built as part of a set of PvP maps that were going to be used in Play Mindcrack in 2013. And I actually have their logo here. So, in 2013, you will notice that this is not 2013, it is 2016. So, it was going to be plugin based, but it got caught up in all sorts of internal politics. The people behind Play Mindcrack didn't believe the asymmetrical model would work, wanted the whole thing rebuilt. The build team didn't want to do it, they wanted to stick to their... It's a long story, but Play Mindcrack went down. So the map was freed up, but by the time that happened, we'd almost forgotten about it because it was just sitting on the back burner for so long. Fast forward to 1.9. When the 1.9 command blocks came out, I was really excited by all the cool things we could suddenly do without having to deal with updating fill clocks and all that jazz. It just became a whole lot more, I guess, faster? Or faster, English. But it became easier to do that sort of thing. So I figured, okay, pretty good at 1.9 command block. And a lot of people put a lot of hard work into this. So let's build a really basic capture the flag system so people can actually play on this map. Because I was actually really hyped about this map when it was under construction, so I wanted to play it. So, let's get into the actual map here. See what I did there? Yeah, that is actually the Broken Buttons logos. It's an old version. The new one is black, but the old one was red. So that's why that logo is in the lobby. Right, anyway. The mechanics themselves are very, very simple, as I'm sure you know if you've ever played the map. You take a flag from one side, you take it to the other side, and then you get a point. You respawn instantly, all the kills are instant deaths. If you die, you drop the flag, and if you find a dropped flag, you can either return it to your base instantly, or you can pick it up and run to your base. So you return it to your base if you're on the team that the flag belongs to. Ultimately, it's very standard capture the flag mechanics, which was intentional, because my design philosophy for this was make it easy to get into. The kind of map where anyone can load it up, and within a round or two, they'll understand what they're doing, and they can play it. And they can play it effectively. So that works for describing sort of the overall mechanics. Oh, speaking of those instant kill weapons, originally they were a placeholder from my map GSW, as I just wanted some placeholder with attribute modifiers set up so that... It's because it was like a lightsaber and like robes and stuff. But it turned out during testing, when we were sort of testing the initial layout, that it was really fun when you added the 1.9 shield, because suddenly you couldn't do the usual PvP thing of just run around willy-nilly, and then if someone shoots you, you'll know they're shooting at you, and you can turn around and fight back, and maybe one of you wins, depending on who clicks faster or what. But that was no longer the case with shields. See, now you can get in a fight, and it would be based on strategy. And not only that, but when you're not in a fight, you would constantly have to know where the enemy players are. You'd need to coordinate with your teammates, because if someone snuck up behind you, that's it. They get one shot at you, you're dead. So it sort of added another layer of the actual combat in the game to require thinking about that. So this view isn't really going to work for explaining the overall layout of the map, so let's switch to this. This is an above view I have loaded up in GIMP, and it will serve nicely for explaining this. So first off, I'm going to start by describing the original plan for the map, that is, the layout as it was going to be on Play Mindcrack. We have a spawn here. I'm using the wrong tool here. So we have a spawn here. I'm just going to reduce the size of the brush. Professionalism, that's me. Alright, so a spawn. We got 2 exits for the spawn. One is close to the flag, so if someone's attacking the flag, you can go through there and get them. And one is close to the lanes, so you can run through that and get to the enemy base. So it's sort of an offensive and a defensive. And you actually have the exact same thing over on this side. You got spawn there, and one temple. From there, you got 3 lanes. From the flag to the other flag, which is sort of how it goes. So you got a lane going here. It goes under that tunnel, which you can't really see because the lobby's in the way, but it goes there, and then there. Then you had one that goes right through here, and one that goes up here. Now, this is why you don't draw with a mouse. So, the original sort of idea behind this design was you have reasons for each of the lanes. The middle lane here, sort of the default lane. It has lots of cover. You can kind of go building to building. You can check what's around you, you know. And keep in mind, this map was designed for like 20 versus 20 PvP, so you were going to have just armies pouring through here. So, the small tunnel it's very narrow, there's no cover. If you run through that, you're probably going to die because there's probably someone from the other team who had the same idea. But it's a calculated risk. It's shorter, but riskier. And the upper path was longer, but it has more of a bow shot, because you can shoot a bow from here and hit almost anyone in the map. So the idea was people on defense could go up here, and they could kind of station themselves and shoot at people going in trying to capture the flag, or they can do that while running to try to capture the enemy flag, even though it would be a little longer still. And that didn't really work out in the initial testing, because in the initial testing, this path right here was the only path people ever used. You could get a 5 versus 5, and they wouldn't care or think about the fact that everyone else is going to be using that path. They would just take that path. So as a result, more than 2/3 of the map, I'd say even 3/4 of the map, were completely ignored. Nobody ever went out here. Nobody ever went out here. So we needed to fix that. And we did this by having one of our build team members, Bluehush, build little one-way entrances. So these became one way. Now suddenly, this lane is no more viable than this lane. It's still a perfectly viable thing because there's actually a tunnel connecting these. And there's also one connecting these, but not worry about that. So, tunnel connecting these. So now, suddenly, you can run down the center lane, and you have an alternate route to attack the enemy flag that isn't more powerful. So you can be going along and decide to take the cave entrance. So we aren't oversimplifying things, because there's still multiple angles you can attack the enemy and be attacked, but it's not any more powerful. So that's how we took care of that. But we still needed something to encourage people to use the upper lane, because nobody was actually using it for the bow purposes that we'd originally intended. And we did this with a fancy 1.9 feature that wasn't even dreamed of when the map came out. So it was a really good coincidence that it happened right when we needed it. And that is the Elytra. Located right here in the center of the upper lane, the Elytra allows you to fly from the upper lane to anywhere in the map. Really, like you can run here or here and then fly, and you can go all the way to the temple. If you fly right, you can even go all the way to capture the flag just with your wings. Of course, while you're doing that, people can really obviously see you, and they can try to shoot you down, but it's very hard to shoot you down, and yeah, you know, it's a sort of another angle of attack. You can attack from above instead of just from the side. And that worked out pretty well, except we were still running into a bit of a problem. You see, as mentioned earlier, this map was designed for PlayMindCrack, a huge minigame server. It was supposed to have maybe 10 people on a team at a time, maybe more, because they used to have the Dwarves vs. Zombies game, and that was huge. So, the map was designed in kind. It's a very large map. That doesn't really work when you have few players, and the goal is to maximize PvP encounters. So we had to figure out a way to get around that. Now, in order to get around this, we wanted players to not have to worry about defense, because to be honest, defense is boring. You're just sitting in your base waiting for the enemy to attack, you're not getting any points, you're not having any fun. And the enemy can always just take another path. And previously that was the only way to get PvP encounters. So what we did was, if I can just pick my color palette here, there we go, we added AI. And using the AI word is it's a strong term for it, but this is what I call them in the options, so let's just stick with it, huh? One guarding the flag, one guarding each entrance, and then a little bonus right in the middle that can guard wherever, depending on where it wanders. Now the AI are just modified skeletons. They switch to melee at short range, they have the same attack power as players, so they're actually really hard to fight. But you can pick them off if you go in and you sort of know approximately where they're going to spawn, you pick them off with your bow. So the point was that when you attack a base now, you don't need someone from that team to be sitting there on defense, just camping the flag or whatever. And that freed those players up to be in the game field. And the more players in the game field on offense, the more chance that they counter each other. So the AI helped to resolve that problem and made it a little bit more usable with fewer players, but there was still a little bit of a problem. You see, there was a long distance between the bases, and we can't really resolve that. So if you have 1 versus 1, great, you don't need to do defense, but you still have to run all the way over here, or up here and get the Elytra to get the end base. So what we needed... Oh, and also there was a problem where, because the Elytra were so powerful, at the beginning of the game, a whole bunch of people from both teams would just bum rush up here to grab it. But only one person can get that Elytra, and often one person gets it and then someone from the other team kills them and then nobody gets it. And then everyone just kind of has to walk down the long way, or they can take the tunnel, and it's not fun. It's longer walking, less fighting. So to minimize this, we had an idea. What if the one person who's going to get the Elytra gets a little shortcut? So let's just draw this in. This shortcut leads directly from each spawn point to a little room next to the Elytra chamber, and this is key, because now the people fight before grabbing the Elytra, after. And in addition, it would only be a 1 versus 1 fight. You wouldn't have a horde of people running up here and only one person gets it. The horde of people would be running out here, you know, in the actual game, trying to get the other. They'd run into each other in the center lane and everything. You know, it's all fun PvP encounters. But the one person who's here and here, well, I guess 2 people each team, meet in here, because it's actually timed, so they meet at the same time, and they fight. And there's a little PvP encounter there, which of course is what we maximize. So, the winner gets the Elytra. Loser respawns at their base, I'm assuming the red team, and they know that someone from the blue team just got an Elytra, so they can come out here and they're ready to try to shoot down the person with the Elytra trying to get the flag. So realistically, both teams have a second PvP encounter almost immediately afterward. And it's an Elytra-based PvP encounter. It's a lot. It's kind of varied, same encounter every time. So that's sort of how we dealt that. We encourage PvP encounter, try to avoid having stretches of time where people are doing nothing, and we balance it for both large numbers and small numbers of players. So once that was done, just a matter of testing, and then some little cases of polish. For instance, these ambient wind noises. Path. If you're in the bottom path, I actually have it set up to play random cave noise. But there's a randomized delay, so we might not hear one. Oh, in addition, the lobby. That was one to add. We actually added it first, but I forgot to mention it. Originally, the lobby was going to be in the minigame server, but we couldn't do that, so we just did this. Being a very simple map and going by the design philosophy I mentioned earlier, there's not much need to give the players a bunch of information, so we just kinda... I mean, really, it's a glorified team selection menu, and like, way to start the game. In addition, from the lobby, you can see the map, which I always like because it's sort of like a built-in tutorial. You can get a feel for the layout of the map before you even step foot in it, just while you're waiting for everyone to pick their teams or whatever. You can stand out on this balcony and see, okay, there's the base, path here, a path here, and you can't see all of it. Some of it you need to discover while playing. But you can sort of see how it's laid out, and you can also see how cool it looks, so you sort of get hyped to play it. So I believe that's everything I wanted to talk about. In the next episode, I'm going to be covering the actual mechanics, the template, the spawn chunks, how I used smelts to make the map a reality, and that sort of thing. So, see you then.